Luxury at its core is name recognition. Gucci, Bentley, Cartier. It's not that these companies don't make some of the highest quality goods in their respective industries. It's just that often the primary reason you pay 2 to 50 times more for these products is the name on the product. In the watch industry, one major player has worked tirelessly to try to change the way that watch enthusiasts view luxury timepieces, and of course that company is Rolex. I mean Swatch. It's Swatch. The idea of affordable luxury for watches was very much pioneered by this guy, Nicholas Hayek. Hayek was a watch guy, like really a watch guy. He believed that luxury Swiss timepieces should, in at least some cases, carry all of the things that we expect from a luxury watchmaker. Timeless design, hand assembly, high quality finishing and movements, exceptional craftsmanship, and even historic name recognition, but all for a reasonable price. Under Swatch Group, Longines would be a perfect example of this. But as the 2020s got underway, his son, Hayek Jr., now captain of the Swatch ship, found himself in a position to turn the luxury watch industry formula directly on its head, perhaps just as explosively as his father had with the original Swatch, this time with an all-new approach to name recognition and watch development. Now, before we get too far, I do want to point you guys to a few sources if you want to dive in a bit more into this story. First, there's this Gear Patrol article, and it's fantastic. It details the development and history of the MoonSwatch, but also this book does a really great job of going over each version and iteration of the watch. Now, interestingly enough, the MoonSwatch wasn't actually born out of some brilliant business plan sure to make the company millions. Rather, it actually came out of material innovation. Swatch had been experimenting with ceramics and something that they were calling bioceramics. If you don't already know, ceramic in watchmaking refers to high-tech zirconium dioxide-based ceramics, a material known for its scratch resistance, its lightweight feel, but also a luxurious, matte, or even glossy finish. It's become a staple in modern luxury watches, especially for bezels, cases, and even sometimes bracelets, and it's quite expensive to produce. Ceramic is harder than steel, it's virtually scratch-proof, and it requires diamond-tipped tools to polish it. Well, Swatch had begun working with mixtures of ceramic and castor oil-based plastics alongside pigments. And this bioceramic that they'd come up with was pretty great. They were already using it in Swatch watches. The material was actually so impressive that many of the Swatch brands wanted to try it out for their own watches, but Hayek Jr. had a different idea. What if Swatch kept the bioceramics in the Swatch family for a specific new standout piece using this proprietary sort of hybrid luxury material for a crossover watch with one of Swatch's historic luxury brands, but for a fraction of the price and powered by a quartz movement. But which Swatch brand and which specific watch? Swatch actually threw around a few options, including the 50 Fathoms from Blancpain and the Omega Speedmaster 300. For Hayek, these watches were iconic, but they didn't really fit the idea behind the project in terms of the watch's identity. He wanted this to be as much a Swatch as anything, not just a one-to-one copy of an iconic different watch. That meant that it needed to be fun and playful and really a platform for further interesting iterations. Hayek didn't see the potential in a dive watch, so they started looking at chronographs. Swatch had actually made multiple chronographs in the 90s, and specifically modeling the watch after the iconic Speedmaster and leaning into its heritage was beginning to make sense for Hayek. It wasn't just that the Speedmaster fit in terms of design for Swatch. This platform had always had a unique appeal in the luxury market. Aside from being arguably one of the most iconic watches of all time, it's also sort of an everyman's watch. Yes, wealthy collectors have Speedies, but it's also an aspirational piece for regular people, the kind of people that Swatch wanted to target. Maybe people who've never been able to afford a watch with the name Omega on it, but now they could. On top of that, it's a watch that tells a story. It's not just, oh, this is the preferred sport watch. It's the Moonwatch, and it has that unique story. It's a watch for those who find space exploration and its history fascinating. It's like the difference between a regular Hamilton field watch and the Murph. The Murph has this specific story that Hamilton can tell, and so they can charge more. Having this new Swatch be a story-driven timepiece would actually be key for creating hype around it. For the original MoonSwatch, they decided to differentiate the subdial layout, giving the 3 subdials an even spacing versus the Speedmaster, which has the 3 dials located at 3, 6, and 9, closer to the bottom half of the watch. But that was about where differences from the Speedmaster ended. The diameter, thickness, lug-to-lug, lug spacing, they were all pretty much identical to the Speedmaster, giving the MoonSwatch wearer really the same basic experience minus the weight, with this bioceramic material being incredibly light. With designs in hand and the Omega and Swatch names boldly placed on the dial, Hayek took the MoonSwatch to a few key people to get their thoughts. Petro Protopapas, that is Omega's brand heritage and museum director, he loved it. Others, like Omega's CEO Reynald Eschleman, they weren't so excited, and understandably so. Here's a $260 watch bearing the Omega name boldly and basically having the same exact design as their most desirable iconic watch. How could this be anything but bad for the Omega brand? Eschleman had a great alternative idea. He told Hayek, what if we didn't make that watch? What if we just had this bioceramic cheap version as an available loaner watch for speedy owners who send their watch in for repair? Which I just love. I love that idea. And Hayek was like, nah, that's not happening. It's okay. There's no reason to give Eschleman grief. I think he was just trying to put Omega first. Who could blame him? It's not like there aren't many other enthusiasts out there who don't like the MoonSwatch. Interestingly enough, the MoonSwatch would sort of become the loaner option for speedy owners. It's the watch that they wear to the gym. It's the watch that they wear to the gym or for anything where they need to keep their Speedmaster safe and protected. That Gear Patrol article points to one Speedmaster owner's thoughts when the MoonSwatch came out. He said, I'm a Speedmaster guy, so I really had to digest it a little bit because, yeah, you're basically making a copy of an icon. He says, when I saw that it said Omega and Swatch and it said Speedmaster, at first I thought, oh, why did you put Speedmaster on the dial? But then it struck me, if you don't put Speedmaster on it, people will say it's just a cheap copy. But with Speedmaster on the dial, it's a Speedmaster. Regardless, production moved forward. Like the original Swatch from the 80s, the entire thing was designed, developed, and produced in-house. A true Swiss watch, once again marketed for the masses and manufactured almost entirely automatically. In mid-March of 2022, simple white Omega ads began surfacing with the message, on March 26th, it's time to change your Swatch, while Swatch ran its own ads on March 26th, it's time to change your Omega. They were primarily targeted in traditional media like magazines where luxury goods are typically advertised. From the moment the MoonSwatch was announced, it created really an unprecedented level of hype in the watch world. Swatch had devised a brilliant marketing strategy, leveraging the Omega brand name and the heritage of the Speedmaster while maintaining the playful, accessible ethos of Swatch. Swatch refused to sell the MoonSwatch online, making it available only at select Swatch boutiques worldwide, and this move instantly turned the MoonSwatch into a scarcity-driven phenomenon, typical of luxury watches. Launch day was March 26th, 2022, and they saw massive crowds forming outside of Swatch stores around the world with thousands of customers queuing up for a chance to own a piece of Speedmaster heritage, but at a fraction of the price. Some lines stretched for blocks, and in some locations, police were called in to control the crowds. In places like Singapore and New York, stores sold out almost instantly within hours. Listings for MoonSwatches appeared on resale platforms for 5 to 10 times their retail price. The MoonSwatch wasn't just a hit with casual buyers, it kind of sparked a debate within the watch enthusiast community. Many collectors dismissed it as a gimmick, saying that the use of the Omega name on a plastic body quartz watch would devalue the Speedmaster's legacy. Others saw it as, a great entry point for new enthusiasts into the world of Swiss watches. Regardless of opinion, the numbers spoke for themselves. Swatch had a bona fide blockbuster on their hands, with demand outpacing supply. Well over 1 million MoonSwatches have now been sold. The initial release consisted of 11 models, each named after a celestial body in our solar system. The lineup included the Mission to the Moon, the most faithful to the classic Speedmaster, featuring a gray case and dial. Then there was Mission to Mars, a striking red case and white dial inspired by the Omega Speedmaster Alaska project, mission to Saturn, mission to Neptune, mission to Mercury, Uranus, Venus, Earth, Pluto, Sun, and Jupiter, each with a unique color scheme and design cues reflecting those celestial inspirations. I think where Swatch nailed it was in the designs. They made it look easy, but it's not a simple task taking a kind of professional luxury sport watch and adding almost a goofy, fun flair to it that is almost universally appealing. Or at least, one or two of the models will be appealing to most people. Imagine another company doing this with, say, a super popular Rolex. I do think in part the Speedmaster was uniquely suited to this kind of almost customization, but Swatch's designers really deserve the credit for the way that they made the watch retain its identity while looking just playful and creative. Swatch continued to capitalize on the MoonSwatch's popularity by introducing special editions and collaborations. Some of the most notable releases include the Moonshine Gold Edition, which featured a second hand coated with Omega's proprietary Moonshine Gold alloy, and other, surprise limited pop-up editions. While the MoonSwatch remains a quartz-powered bioceramic sort of novelty piece, there have been rumors and speculation that Swatch might eventually release a mechanical version. Of course, building on the popularity of the MoonSwatch, Swatch partnered with Blancpain for a few different collaborations that are mechanical, sort of bridging the gap between affordability and Swiss luxury. The MoonSwatch is in many ways a case study in watch branding and collaboration, and even consumer psychology, much like the original Swatch revolution in the 80s, when Swatch turned Swiss watchmaking on its head by proving that a fun, stylish, and affordable quartz watch could succeed even in an industry dominated by high-end mechanical timepieces. They showed that Swiss watches could make sense for the whole world once again, and that they didn't have to always follow the same system. And I think in a lot of ways that's what happened with the MoonSwatch. Now for Omega, the impact of the MoonSwatch is kind of a topic of debate. Some purists think that it cheapens the Speedmaster legacy, while others would say that it introduced a new generation to the idea of owning an Omega watch, which would then in turn pave the way for future Speedmaster sales. Given that Omega still sells every Speedmaster professional that they produce, it's safe to say the MoonSwatch hasn't hurt the brand financially, and maybe other luxury brands should actually take a page out of the Swatch book. For Swatch, the MoonSwatch proved that the company could still disrupt the industry in a meaningful way. It reaffirmed Swatch's ability to blend affordability with Swiss prestige. Ultimately, for me, I think that the MoonSwatch just shows the power of storytelling, of nostalgia, and strategic marketing in the watch industry. When I think about the appeal of luxury watches, sure, it's finishing and movements and design, but often it's the story that's just as powerful, and that's what the MoonSwatch does so well. It tells a story. If the Casio ever were to happen, if Casio ever actually partnered with AP and made, let's say, a $300 or $400 version of this watch, sure, the design would be important, but more than anything, it would be the story that these two brands could tell collaboratively. If that part was compelling, it would sell like crazy. It's not the specs that get people lining up around blocks to get, a $260 cheap plastic quartz watch. It's that feeling that you're getting in on something new and cool and special. And for all the haters who say it's just a cheap plastic, overpriced type watch, maybe fix the proverbial log in your own eye as you spend the equivalent of a decent running Honda Accord on a watch using 19th century technology. My point is, it's all silly. Just buy what you like and quit telling people that your jewelry is better than theirs. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe for more videos like it, and we'll see you in the next one.